Have you been using Perplexity?
I have not been using Perplexity.
You're still
What
using Google? Are you like a
I'm still like I'm not even using ChatGPT for Omni with
you've got an
once
AARP
once
card and
I've got
no
ARP. So look at this. I went to India. I went back in time. The minute Scarlett Johansson was no longer the voice, I
you're
stopped
checked out?
using it.
Oh.
I checked out.
I didn't want to like Perplexity. When I first tried it, I thought they made some dumb UI choices. I didn't understand why people wanted to dump money into this company because they're just a UI on top of foundation models. But I met the founder briefly. I listened to some interviews with him too, and I thought he was very thoughtful. I don't know if it makes sense as an investment, but the product has changed the way that I use search and use my computer. Like I love it now.
And compared to what do you think of it versus OpenAI's Perplexity? Why do you give it so much more?
It does a great job of integrating what's on the web, current events, news from this morning is in there. It does a great job of figuring out what you actually mean and want to do. It almost always gives you like a really useful response. I ask it for recipes for the Ninja Creamy. I don't know. I'm a Perplexity junkie because the thing gives you better answers, right? It just gives you what you thought you were going to look for. So if you could do this in ChatGPT, but it's general purpose and chatty, and it like veers off in other directions and stuff. What Perplexity has done is turned it into, I think they call it an answer engine. Like you ask it anything and it goes and figures out what you're actually looking for and gives it to you. And it's really good. And I've replaced it as my default search engine. Like I haven't
Really?
used Google in months now. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Occasionally I'll go to Google to look for images because Perplexity sucks at that. But like I don't use Google for anything else except if I like want to look for images. I'll use Google Images, but I don't use it for search. And so far, Perplexity costs $20 a month, but doesn't have any ads, which I also love. And so I really like this product. I don't know if the company is a good investment. I don't know if they're really going to make a bunch of money doing this. I think other things are likely to catch up. I know that Google just demoed something I haven't tried. So it's very exciting though, because you start to feel much more like once you get in the habit of using Perplexity, you start to really feel like all the things that you used to go search for on Google. Like before, say I wanted to figure out how to make blueberry ice cream on a Ninja Creamy. I'd search it for Google. I'd put in Ninja Creamy blueberry ice cream. It'd give me a bunch of links. I'd command click on them to open tabs, and then I'd go look in the tabs and I'd close 3 out of 4 of them, and then I'd have a recipe. And if I was trying to do something more complex, yesterday I was like, explain the difference between mesons and muons, because I wasn't
Okay.
exactly sure. And the thing goes and explains for me mesons are this type of subatomic particle, like a quark family thing. Muons are this other thing. This is how long they live. These live for that many microseconds or whatever. And it just breaks it down for you and explains it. And I could have figured that out and looked on Wikipedia and read about each of them, or looked for some paper that described it that was probably written for somebody who's a particle physicist and not for me. And you could get ChatGPT to do that, but you really don't have to put a lot of effort into prompting Perplexity. Most of the time, what you ask it for, it's going to give you what you wanted. And
Why? What's the? Because I'm noticing the underlying models are all.
yeah, you can choose an underlying foundation model, but then on top of it, they've built a bunch of, I don't know what, their own code to do retrieval augmented generation. So they go search the web. They're probably doing something like Google search in the background. And they combine all of this stuff, and you can actually watch it. There's a little button, you click a toggle called Pro, and you turn on Pro, and Perplexity will show you as it's making a plan. It'll say, oh, okay, go look up mesons, go look up muons, go see if you can find out. And it's like making the recipe for its plan, and then it'll go execute the plan. So again, I think this kind of all probably gets real easy. Like lots of AI is going in this direction. But from a user perspective, I think what's cool about it is you can get a head start on the future. Like you can just go use this now and start replacing Google in your life, and you'll start to feel like more potent.
like this.
Yeah.
And it's always been my concern with, I was actually just doing this, going back to this Ahoy conversation, but I said, name some of the companies Ahoy works with. And it turns out there's some other company called Ahoy Ahoy, literally.
Yeah.
And OpenAI just went nuts. And it said, would you like the case study? Would you like this? And I was like, wow, it's pretty amazing. It's got a lot going on here. And then
Yeah.
suddenly it turns out it's nothing. It had nothing to do with that one.
Yeah, it was the wrong company. Entity recognition is one of the big problems, and it's not really what LLMs are good for. Like they don't really know the difference between Ahoy and Ahoy Hoy and Scarlett Johansson and a scar on Joe Hansen. Like it's just a
Exactly.
totally different thing. And so I don't know what's going on with that in OpenAI, but in order to really make LLMs good, they're going to have to get much better at entity recognition and become really a knowledge graph. That's one of the things that I've been digging into on the podcast a bunch in the past. There's episode with Brian, what's his name? Brian. There's an episode with Brian Jacobs from Data.World where we pick apart LLMs versus knowledge graphs, and it's a really important distinction. I think that's probably what is going on behind the scenes at OpenAI or something. They just don't talk about it, but that's what's going to really matter. You're going to really want to be talking about the right company.
Yes, that you've got to sort absolute garbage with, let's call it, anchored knowledge, right? At some point, and then you have to be able to modify that, because like when Pluto has been like reduced in its importance, you got to like change, let's call it, the core foundation of information. And or when you find a muon, or like you're like,
Yeah.
wait, there's a quark, and then suddenly J particles or whatever. And the problem is we didn't have that concept. I think the challenge is in all of these, we have a bias or
Yeah.
a function that allows us to anchor what we would call elements of core truth, right? Foundational. And
Yeah.
and none of the LLMs really have that. They don't
No, and to
have
the
the
extent
notion
that
at
they
all.
do, it's like American pop culture, American politics, American everything, like
Right.
people from other countries.
Which is why you can then corrupt it really easily.
Yeah, there you go. I like
So,
the idea of corrupting LLMs.
oh, I'm all about that. I think we should just start like a denial of service attack, but we could do a denial of LLM. You
Yeah,
just start teaching it bad things.
yeah,
And suddenly it's saying, please take pebbles, ideally anything with a hardness over 8, throw into your Ninja Creamy and press.
yeah. We're going to start getting something like SEO will arrive,
My
but
neighbor, by the way. I think the Ninja guy is my neighbor. I think he has a house right down the street.
yeah. What if you did these search? I'm sure, like with search engines, just go behind the scenes and say, "Hey, you're building a foundation model. Let us add some training data in there for $1 million." That's like proactive SEO of the future.